What is up, guys, and welcome to the special World Cup qualifier preview episode of Guarani Vision, the first ever podcast dedicated to Paraguayan football in English. As always, I'm Roberto Rojas, and joining me are my two great co-hosts, Federico Perez and Maria Britos. And guys, here we are. It is the final international window of the year for 2023, and obviously, we are here to talk about Paraguay's final two World Cup qualifiers for 2023 as they look to qualify for the World Cup here in the United States, Mexico, and Canada. Two big games. First of all, against Chile in Santiago on Thursday, and then hosting Colombia at the Defensores del Chaco on Tuesday. Two big games really at stake in the entire qualifying process. You really, trying to close it off on a high and to continue to be in contention as we're getting into obviously the nitty-gritty things of a campaign that's going to be very tight for Paraguay. And I think I'll go to Fede on this one because obviously here we are. We're about 48 hours from here until that game against Chile. And honestly, man, I don't know if I feel like, and we're speaking about a Paraguay set that just came off from their last one against Bolivia. They won it at the scruff of their necks over there, thanks to the goal from Sanabria. But it feels like the vibe hasn't been that good for some reason. Like, I don't know, it's maybe just because of this low optimism on Paraguay as a whole and just how the national team will do. Maybe it's because of the injuries of some of the players that are not going to be there. I mean, Fede, you're there. You're over there, and obviously in Paraguay. What's kind of the mood, and what's your mood heading into these last two final World Cup qualifiers for the year?
Yeah, hi Roberto, hi Maria, hi to everyone listening to Guarani Vision. Here we are with another preview episode. We got a couple of games to end the year, and I'm actually excited. Obviously, we were coming up from a win, so you got to be positive about that after seeing a couple of players, especially shine out. Even though, yeah, Miguel Almiron's going to be out. He had a great game against Bolivia. He was probably one of the best ones out there in Defensores del Chaco. I think team is going to miss him, but hey, it's opportunities for other players. The list has a couple of new players. Also, we got to review that. We're going to look back into the whole list that Garnero threw at us, especially from the local players. A lot of players from Libertad that just clinched their new a new tournament, the Clausura. They won their title. What is it? 24 titles now. Short titles for Libertad, who's getting closer to Cerro Porteño, Olimpia, who are the teams that have obviously the most titles and are the most popular teams here in Paraguay. But besides the local tournament, we got to get into this Aguirre Roja mode. I do think that people have to be a lot more positive about the team. I don't think the team really outshined against Bolivia. That's why people are kind of maintaining their feet on the ground. They're not really on the high with this team, especially because we had this situation before where we won a game and then we were back and then we went back a couple of steps. So hopefully that does not happen with Daniel Garnero. We're still under this new coach. It's still very important to him to end the year the best way possible. And for a couple of players, maybe to show up, Roberto, I think it's a very good opportunity. We're not going to have action again until September of next year. So it's a whole bunch of months. It's a lot of time before the next game comes up, obviously in the middle of the Copa America. But as for the World Cup itself, it's a long time. So these are the two games we got to win. We got to go get Berizzo out of Chile because that's our first opponent. And then we got to have a really nice meeting against Colombia here to end it up in Defensores del Chaco in front of our crowd.
Yeah, a lot of storylines on this one, Maria. Obviously, like Fede had mentioned, Chile, obviously a side with Eduardo Berizzo, our ex-manager. Colombia as well, a side that's also trying to find its feet. Obviously, really coming into the news as of recently due to the kidnapping of Luis Diaz's parents. Obviously, they are now freed. So that's a lot of emotion from them. And obviously for us, like Fede has mentioned, yeah, it's the last two games until we play again for a World Cup qualifier until September. We also have a Copa America, which, finally in about a few weeks, right there in Miami, actually, where you are, Maria, we'll get to find out where Paraguay will be playing that Copa America in the United States. We get to find out who they'll be facing. So, yeah, it's really is the kind of the final chance, at least for this year, to really assess the whole year, trying to assess really what's been a crazy year for Paraguay, where we've undergone so many players, managers, a bunch of things that happen as always as we see in Paraguay. And I think hopefully that, with these two games against Chile and Colombia, that they can at least close it out on a high where, getting the win is also important, but also being in contention still to qualify for the World Cup.
Yeah, it's definitely one of those time one of those games that it's going to be a lot of pressure for the whole team. but they are coming from a high, so hopefully they can continue that streak. With the news of Miguel Almiron, it's just a lot of, I think, downs, and I think maybe that, like you said, that's why the mood has been a little bit different. But I also I've read a little bit of some articles, and I've seen a little bit of optimism in the players. Oh, they're sad that he's gone, but there's a lot of players that can take up his place and keep the momentum going, keep the players up to speed with this. This, at the end of the day, there's a goal for this team, and that is to continue to be in contention for the qualifiers. And if next year, and we're gonna wait a whole year for the next games, then there's definitely a lot more pressure on these players to continue the streaks, the winning streaks. So yeah, there's a lot going on for sure.
And obviously, we go into some of the players that will be on the squad. Will be looking to hopefully give a little bit of joy to Paraguayan fans all over the world as we look at the list here. Obviously, the one name that will not be there will be Miguel Miron, obviously, due to the injury that he had for Newcastle United against Bournemouth just a few days ago. It's a grade one hamstring injury, so therefore he will not be able to travel to Paraguay. But looking at the list as a whole, here is how it is at the moment. For the goalkeepers, the same as always: Carlos Coronel, Santiago Rojas, and Juan Espinola. In defense, we have Gustavo Gomez, Junior Alonso, Fabián Balbuena, Robert Rojas, Omar Alderete, Matias Espinosa, Juan Cáceres, a new name here. The kid from Lanús, an Argentine born, as we had mentioned beforehand, and Nestor Jimenez, as Fede mentioned, one of the many Libertad players on this squad to close out the defense. Looking into the midfield, Richard Sanchez, Matias Villasanti, Kaku Romero Gamarra, Matias Rojas, Andres Cubas, Gaston Jimenez, Diego Gomez, Ramon Sosa, Álvaro Campuzano, Matias Galarza, Ernesto Caballero, another Libertad player, and Ivan Leguizamon to close out the midfields. And finally, in the attack, Alan Barreiro, Gabriel Avalos, Antonio Sanabria, and to you, Fede, a name, and I'm going to go to you now on this one, the final name and the one that people felt a bit surprised that he was there. But of course, given his good form that he's had for Libertad this year, it's good to at least allow him to get the opportunity to maybe finalize his career for the Paraguay national team or as a whole. Oscar Tacuara Cardoso, 40 years old. He is back on the squad. I don't know how I feel about that, man. It just feels so odd that someone like him, who again, I appreciate the career that he's had. He's had a fantastic time during his time as a national team player or as a player in clubs. But are you really going to stick a 40-year-old on this Paraguay national team and taking on very experienced sides like Chile and Colombia? I mean, I don't think he's going to start regardless, but man, that's it's an interesting squad by Garneto and multiple Libertad players on this one. The last time I checked, it's like 5 of them, if I'm not mistaken. So really going back to his roots as a Libertad manager, calling up these players that he's used to.
Yeah, the first thing that catches your eye when you see this list is, wow, what a bunch of Libertad players, right? I mean, this hasn't happened before with other managers. So, yeah, it clearly has to do with the fact that Carnero was just right there. He has the confidence on these players. And, hey, Tacuara Cardoso is looking younger than ever, Roberto. I don't know what you're thinking about. I know you want to retire him already. I know you think that 40 years old might be old for you, but hey, these guys are still doing it in the Paraguayan League. And to be honest with you, the Paraguayan League has a lot of experienced players. So when you look into the league right now and you see Roque Santa Cruz, you see Tacuara Cardoso still having an impact in the game, still being a top scorer, even Tacuara. It's not the case of Roque Santa Cruz. He's played a lot less. He's had problems with injuries, but not Tacuara Cardoso. Oscar has been doing great. He's been the starting player in Libertadores, also having big games. I think he's had a phenomenal year. And I would even link it up to last year. Maybe he was waiting for that call, for that return. With the last couple of managers with Perez, he had an opportunity. He had a couple of calls before, with not so much with Esqueloto. I don't think he had any opportunity with him, but he's always been under the radar. I mean, because he's always been playing. He hasn't had many problems with injuries, even though last time around, the last call up, he was injured. I think he was going to be called up because Garnero had him already. around his head. He was already thinking about him. So I don't know what kind of spot he's going to have in the team. I don't think he's going to start in either of the games. To be honest with you guys, especially seeing the other kind of strikers that we have. Hey, Tony Sanabria just scored in a very important goal against Bolivia. Is he going to get the confidence to start? Are you going to get it to Gabriel Avalos? Adam Barreiro can't play the first game against Chile. So you're going to have to look for a forward. You're going to have to make up your mind. And I don't think it's going to be Oscar Tacuara Cardoso the first option. But you never know. With Garnero, he's given a lot of confidence to the Libertad players, Maria. So are you surprised to see Oscar Cardoso? Are you happy, or do you want to retire him like Roberto has already done?
I was definitely surprised when we saw his name in the roster, but if you guys have heard our conversation with Romina in our last interview, in our last episode, we spoke about this, and I think maybe Garnero listened to our episode, and he said, hey, I gotta bring in someone experienced kind of to like line up this new team and give them some confidence, because I did mention sometimes when you bring in older players with experience, you have someone that can boost the players' confidence, give them all the experience, talk to them, and teach these players what they have learned, especially from someone like Tacuara that has had so much history with our Albirroja. And to me, I think it might not be such a good thing from in the sense of him playing with the team, but him being like someone for the players to look up to, someone for Garnero to have him on the side and help him with the players. I think maybe that's the point of him being in this team. I agree with Fede that he might not play this time around, but my guess is that Garnero has him because he wants the team to lighten up and be more, bring life into the players, because like the last few games we haven't seen any of that. We had one win and it was against Bolivia. No offense, but it was against Bolivia. So we need that kind of confidence again in this team, and I think that's the point. We'll see. Maybe he does play. Maybe he plays the last few minutes of a match. Who knows? But I am excited to see him back again in this team.
I mean, obviously, we need the goals. I mean, that's something that we've been deprived of for quite some time. So I'd love to be proven wrong by anyone that could score, even if it is Tacuara, then so be it. But I don't know. I feel a bit more pessimistic on this end because I think
Okay, hold up, Roberto. If you didn't call Tacuara, who would you call? Who's not on the list that you would have called? Like out of the forwards that we have available, like I don't know who to call that. A young one? Do you like anyone that's young? There's Aguilar that scored almost the same amount of goals in Nacional. That's a young name that's about to go back to Libertad. He was on loan. I don't know. That's the only name that I see out there. A lot of people are saying that Alex Arce, who's having a tremendous year.
That was the name I was thinking of. That was the name I was thinking of. Maybe
playing in the second division.
That's the only thing.
You were expecting a young name.
I was expecting some new names, yeah, like Alex Arce. I mean, I think looking at the last like call-ups that we've gotten, like Carlos Gonzalez, Charlie Gonzalez hasn't really been convincing. Robert Morales, he really hasn't been going as well. So he's been someone that I've kind of been disappointed that he hasn't had a lot of games, especially ever since tearing up I think it was his ACL, or had like that really bad injury against Ecuador. He hasn't been given a chance. Sebastian Pereira has kind of fallen off as well. What's going on with Isidro Pita as well? That's another name that I haven't heard in a while. So yeah, I mean, as well, you're kind of deprived of options as well. So yeah, you have a point there. It's like, who do you put in as well? But no, it's just I don't know. I haven't seen any like lineups as of yet of that would assume that Tacuara will play against Chile this Thursday. But honestly, Fede and Maria, I wouldn't do it. Like I think for now, especially since he's won that place in the last game, I think you have to start Tony Sanabria, and that's the big question. Who do you start as the striker? Because you're gonna have, obviously, looking at the squad as well, you're gonna have Ramon Sosa. My guess is that Caco Romero is gonna come in to replace Almiron, who would come in. So then that leaves your number 9. Who's it gonna be? Do we stick with Sanabria? Does he try again with Barreiro? See what he does. He try with Avalos. See what he can do. I mean, what what says you guys, Fede? I mean, I'll go to you. I mean, for me, if I had to choose, if I was Garnero, I'd pick Sanabria just based on kind of the form right now of what he did for the national team.
This is something that I'm also gonna follow in these first games that Garnero's managing the team. Like, see if he gives the confidence to those players that have an impact in the game, that are important in each match. And I think Tony Sanabria did have an impact in the game. He came from the bench. He gave us the important goal. He gave us that piece that we weren't getting against Bolivia. So I do think it's now that you have to put him in the team, especially with Alan Barreiro out. Give him the opportunity to be the starting nine, and give him the responsibility to also have the same impact in the game starting, not just coming in from the bench, not trying to just be the salvation for the team. So I am expecting for Tony Sanabria to obviously take on this opportunity and not let it go, because Avalos has had a great season, and I do think he also deserves the spot. But Alan Barreiro is a totally different player from them. I do think that Tony and Gabriel are players that can play really inside the box, and they are players that don't like to fight that much against the center backs. So Alan does have that. He runs out a lot more than those other two players that probably wait for the ball a lot more in the box. So they're different in that sense. Garnero only likes to play with just one forward, even though against Bolivia, we did end up playing with Gabriel Avalos and Tony Sanabria in the moment that we scored. So you got to think about those opportunities. You got about those situations. Also, we might see, I don't know, Tacuara and Tony Sanabria together in that match against Colombia if we're not able to score again. I think Garnero's trying to put also his imprint on the team, and he likes to attack guys. I mean, he showed it against Bolivia. We're gonna go up against this team, so we're gonna try to beat them. And I love that attitude from him. So hey, I think that whoever starts is gonna get their opportunity, but I do think that he's still gonna try to give everybody their chance. I think the number 9 jersey, the center forward spot, is still open up for grabs.
Yeah, I totally agree there, Fede. He's trying to, Garnero's trying to spice up the team a little bit. And we always talked about how we need a team that's a little more attacking and a little more, we need more goals. So I think that's his goal in this new team. I agree. Sanabria has proven himself to get this spot, and he had the goal last time, the winning goal, and then he had a really interesting game as well against Argentina. He was on the spotlight. So I think that with Cardoso there again, it might be a good it might be a good team up with Sanabria. But I would like to see as well Kaku play, and maybe maybe he plays Sanabria and then maybe he plays Kaku in either or matches, because I think he's also, we have been waiting for him to come back as well for so long, and he finally is here, and he always gives us great games, and it's always fun to watch him as well. So yeah, it's definitely going to be one of those a difficult decision, I guess, for Garnero to make in especially against Colombia, because they've had a really good last couple of games. Chile has been a little bit have had a little bit more problems lately, but I think Colombia will be kind of like the decisive match as well.
Yeah, it's gonna be tough. Like honestly, just going ahead and really looking at some of the stats real quick and really going into this game, because I think, like you said, this Chile side is not the strongest. It really isn't. Like it's not the most convincing. The fact that they were able to beat a really poor Peru side on the day. This is also a team that lost 3-0 to Venezuela over there in Venezuela. And was able to snatch a draw against Colombia. So obviously they're still in the contention, but nevertheless, it feels like for both these teams, they're really in a situation where they're in a must win. Whereas Paraguay go into it with a must win against Chile. Chile are also going for a must win. So these teams, they cannot lose. Like it's really going into that. And I think Fede going into really this kind of environment, and you get to face an old head. You had to face Eduardo Berizzo, a manager that knows this team. He's managed a lot of these players, and I don't know if this is going to be something that is going to be to our advantage or disadvantage, because obviously he has kind of the say of how it goes for some of these players, but it's all about that. It's going to be a really tight game, and I think eventually the team that does lose this game, if there is a loser, I think are really going to confirm themselves out of the World Cup, I'd say, and I think, for Chile's case, they know that the big obligation is to beat them, and I guess we're ready, so kind of sweet revenge as well.
Yeah, as most of the players actually arrived here in Paraguay, they were asked about Eduardo Berizzo, and most of them just showed respect, right, to the former manager of the Albert Roja. I think there was a good relationship there between the players and the manager. I just think the manager just didn't do a good job. That's why he didn't stay on the job. Uh, and the same thing is happening now with Chile. You can see that he's not finding the team. He's not finding the right players. He's trying to mix up with young players, that old generation that won a couple of Copa America. But if you don't have those players on their top form, I'm talking about Vidal, Alexis Sanchez, if they're not there and if they're not 100%, it's kind of hard to see the best Chile team. And I think that's been their main problem so far, that they haven't found the young players, and their stars haven't outshined in the qualifiers yet. Hopefully they don't wake up right against us, right? But especially because I do think that we kind of found the team, guys. I was looking at the list and I was thinking, hey, look, Garnero's not going to touch the team that much, and I think he has his mind set up on the goalkeeper. It's going to be Coronel again. I do think it's going to be Roberto Rojas on the right back, just because we lost Alberto Spinola due to an injury on the last combo, and then we're going to have Gustavo Gomez. Omar Alderete really played really well against Bolivia. I do think he's going to play again. And Mati Espinosa, we find our left back. So we got our defense pretty much set. I don't know if you guys have any arguments there. Then we have Andres Cuba, which has been a very important player to get the balls back. Diego Gomez is coming back to the midfield. I do think he's going to have a spot there. Matias Villasanti, probably the best midfielder we have out there as of right now. There's even talks that he might leave the Brazilian league and might go to Europe at the end of the year. I'm looking forward to that. And then we got Ramon Sosa, who's coming back. Yeah, he barely played with his team after the injury that he suffered against Bolivia, but I do think he has his spot earned in the team. Maria wants to see Kaku and then a forward. That's it, Roberto. I mean, he's not going to change it up that much. We won against Bolivia. I think we got the team. That's why I think we can be positive. We can go with confidence to against Chile and go with this kind of team, with an offensive team. I don't think we're going to play like we did against Argentina, just waiting for them back there. No. This is the kind of game we have to show South America that we're ready to go head to head with anybody, anywhere.
We have to go on the offensive, Maria. Like we have no other choice. We need to go and get the win over there. We need to go in and play our game that we're so used to, and the fact that the one that we basically how we did against Bolivia. We need to score. We need to win, and I think that's a must for us to do it. So, I mean, I don't know how you personally feel about that team that Fede had just mentioned. I think obviously the right back situation is probably my biggest fear, is that you have someone like Rojas who isn't the best as a right back. You still have some choices, but again, you don't really have any others out there. But I think, yeah, like Fede had mentioned, I think if you go for the team that helped you win and you stay with that consistently, ultimately it's going to hit off eventually.
Yeah, definitely. I think that when the rosters came out, you look at it and you see this is the most complete roster and complete team that we've had in a long time. We've had players that are actually known to the team. You know what I'm saying? Like they've had their history. They played a little bit with the team. They know each other. So in that sense, yeah, I agree. This team has really good players this time around. I like the roster that Fede put up together. In the back, like you said, we're always pretty set because we're a defensive team. But yeah, I mean, for now that Garnero, I think, has figured out that we need to be scoring goals, and that's our motive. We need goals. We need we need to move up on the table, and then the only way to do it is to score goals. So yeah, Garnero, I think has been trying to figure out a team, but I think he's getting there. I think he's already figured it out, and I like that. It took him only a little bit, so that's great, and it creates a good future for the team as well, and confidence.
And I think getting that confidence, Fede, is going to be important, especially heading into the next game against Colombia, which again, they as well are looking to obviously, try to qualify and be on a consistent form. They have to play Brazil first. They have to play Brazil at home before traveling to Paraguay. So imagine they're going to be, I'm imagining, going to go and try to go for that game and get the win there. And maybe we see a Colombia squad that's maybe exhausted, maybe not in the best form that we see, and that maybe puts us to an advantage as well because I'm looking at some of the stats real quick. Just going back on the Chile record, by the way, 10 games, 4 wins, 5 losses, 1 draw, 43%. So relatively even record, I'd say. Not the worst one, but the one against Colombia is the one that I'm more worried about. 13 game, 5 wins, 5 losses, 3 draws. Our last win on basically on Paraguayan soil against Colombia. It's not been since 1997, so it's a long time that Paraguay have not been able to beat Colombia in Asunción. We've beaten them in Colombia a long time, and many times, but we haven't been able to do it here. It's been a while, so we need to break that. It's only necessary that we do. Otherwise, we're just going to continue to fall back into history yet again.
Yeah, it's going to be a really hard match just because of all the quality players that they have playing in Europe, especially Colombia has a whole bunch of those players, especially with James, being such an experienced player. And I do think he's still the number 10 in this team. So you're going to have to try to stop him. We're not going to have a number 10. We're not going to have Miguel Almiron. So you're going to wait for other players to also kind of step up in these games. And I do think it depends a lot on how well you do on the first match to see how many players you have to change for the second game, right? In last combo around, we saw that, we did an okay job against Argentina. So Garnero didn't change the team that much for the second game against Bolivia. Just maybe put 1-2 more offensive kind of players on the squad. But I do think it's going to have to do a lot with how good you play against Chile to see how many players you change for the game against Colombia. But, it could be an opportunity for players like Ernesto Caballero in the midfield. I do think he could come in for Matias Villasanti, for instance. I do think Garnero's looking to try to maybe keep the style of the play, the playing style on the team, and just bring in players that can do the job. Ernesto Caballero has done a really good job also for Libertad this season, and he's back on top form. Nestor Jimenez might be another player that has an opportunity for the first time, 26 years old, and he's always sharing, or he plays with Matias Espinosa in Libertad, so he might look for that relationship also on the pitch, maybe against Chile, maybe against Colombia. I do think he's called up, and I do think he might be used in an opportunity. And look out for other players like Juan Cáceres. You mentioned him, Roberto. I mean, as a right back, he's probably the only one that you look and you see that he's different in the sense that he can attack through that side. And he's just 23 years old. He's got that spark. He's going to want that opportunity. So I think he might get some game time either on one of these 2 games. And, being born from parents that were born here in Paraguay, it's going to be very special to him coming back to the country. He's played only 1 friendly, so he's not fully, I would say adapted to the team, but it's going to be really good for him to get minutes and take advantage of him. And the other name is Ivan Leguizamón. Look out for this kid, especially after Miguel Almiron is injured, guy, because he plays on that spot. He can play as a winger. He's just 21 years old. He plays alongside Alan Barreiro in San Lorenzo. And I don't know, when he was just starting out, one of the things that caught my eye is everybody was calling him in Argentina the Paraguayan Gareth Bale. I don't know if he's that good, but I want to see him. He's probably one of the new names, and he might surprise a couple of people here in Paraguay. These are players that people here in Paraguay don't know because they grew up in Argentina. They've made their whole career in Argentina, and they've been called up for the first time by Garnero.
Yeah, it really is going to be interesting to see how many of these players get going in this match, and these 2 matches, I would say, because they are really must wins. And I think ultimately we're going to have to ask from all of them to contribute. That's kind of the only thing we can do and we can ask for. So we'll have to wait and see. But of course, to close it off here, it's time for predictions. Obviously, the ones that we see, Paraguay, obviously going into this game against Chile. The last time that they did beat them was back in 2017. So it's been a while. The last time that they played, Chile were able to beat them convincingly. I'll go first. I don't know if I feel that confident, but I feel as if though there's something there that this Paraguay squad can finally get something that allows them to hopefully jump that hurdle. And for Chile, as bad as it seems for them, I think this is where their kind of their process just goes down. I think they're in for a surprise, I would say. And I'm gonna say 1-0 Paraguay beats Chile in this one. Fede, what says you? Big game over there in Santiago on Thursday.
Yeah, for the first game, I'm thinking that we're gonna start off better. I think we're gonna score first, maybe even a couple of goals. But I do think that Chile with their fans are gonna try to come back at us, and I think they're gonna end up tying the match. I don't know why I see a tie here. Chile is gonna have the pressure on them. They're gonna have to try at least get something out of this game. So I think we're gonna start off better, but then they're gonna tie. I see it.
What's the score? You got 1-1, 2-2? What do you say?
I'll go with a 2-2.
2-2. Maria, what says you? We got 1 draw and 1 win. How are you feeling?
I'm gonna go with a win as well against Chile. I don't know. I feel confident. I think that this team, like I said earlier, is very complete. We might not have one of our main players, Almiron, but I really do feel like, like I said, that he can be replaceable. Um, but and especially against Chile, like we were talking about, they haven't been in their best form in a long time. So maybe the location might be a little bit of a tough thing for the team. Chile is always difficult to travel to, but I do see a win, maybe a 2-0.
2-0. Okay. Well, we're all right across the board. We're divided here. The next game is against Colombia over there. Like I said beforehand, the last time that Paraguay were able to win against Colombia in a World Qualifier was 1997. So it's been 26 years since that's happened. And I think Fede going into this one, well, I'll go with my prediction as well. This is a really good Colombia side. This is a really good Colombia side. I think they're going to feel very energized, especially with Luis Diaz as well, who, obviously has had to deal with a lot of stuff. And, I think they definitely want to get that kind of motivation to go back on the front foot. But honestly, I think the streak still continues. I think we're not going to win this one. I'm gonna say it's gonna be one of those really tight games. Paraguay Colombia games are always tight. I've seen it recently. It's very rare that we see one of the teams blow out each other, be it Paraguay or Colombia. But I do think it's gonna be a tight one, which unfortunately doesn't really help us in a way, especially coming off that win against Chile. I'm gonna say 1-1 in this one. Paraguay 1-1 against Colombia. What says you over the game in Asuncion?
Yeah, the record's not good against Colombia. You said that, but hey, I'm looking forward to this game. Nobody really cares that we beat Bolivia at home. To be honest with you guys, I mean that's a team everybody's expecting for you to beat. So this is the match we have to win at home. We got to get some momentum going with the fans also. So it's going to be a rough match. I think it's going to be a 1-0, and it's going to be, listen very closely, Roberto. Oscar Tacuara Cardoso coming in from the bench is scoring the 1-0 against Colombia.
Wow. Oh my God. If that happens, Fede, and I'm saying it on the record so that you can remember, if that does happen, that Tacuara scores the winner, I am buying you multiple steak dinners when I come to Paraguay. I am saying that on the record right now.
I'm taking that bet.
100%. So, all right. Another situation for you, Maria. 1 draw, 1 win for both of us. What says you? Do you feel optimistic? Do you feel pessimistic? Can Tacuara be the hero again against Colombia? What says you to close it out? We need to get something to finish the year off.
That would be ideal if Tacuara does score. I think it'll be one of those surprising things for us. But against Colombia, I think we really have to see how Colombia does against Brazil to really see what their mood is going to be like when they come to, to our field. And but I feel confident. Brazil has always been a tough team no matter who plays against them. So I think that, going to our field and in Asunción, I think that that's going to be maybe like another tough time for Colombia, because we always come out and we always show out to big games like this one. Maybe Bolivia wasn't a convincing game for a lot of people, but knowing that we're going to play against Colombia, I think a lot of people are going to show up. So I think that that's going to be a win as well for us. It might be a tough one, but I'm going to go with 2-1.
I'm surprised no one's saying a loss. I feel a bit worried that that's we're just gonna have one of the worst.
You're being pessimistic, Roberto.
I always am. Well, this is what following the team does to you, especially recently. But yeah, I'd love to be proven wrong, and that we get that for all of us, we get 6 points out of 6 from this one, and we were right in contention to go and qualify for the World Cup. But yeah, I'm looking forward to it. It's going to be obviously an exciting game on Thursday. Definitely check it out. Obviously, and not to mention we have Brazil Argentina happening in this window as well, so that's a big one to happen. I think it's right after the Paraguay Colombia game. So obviously, hopefully, we might feel a bit happy that we can enjoy that game in peace if we do get the result. But yeah, looking forward to it on Thursday. Looking forward to it on Tuesday against Colombia. And yeah, hopefully we can close the year off as we always do here on Guarani Vision. We'll talk about the fallout, the happiness, hopefully the happiness here as we close out another great episode, another preview episode, the last one of the year, of course, until we go back in September to talk about it. As we close it out here for myself, Roberto Rojas, Fede Perez, and Maria Britos, thank you so much for listening in. See you soon.